Buddy, my name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been working with people to help them through their struggles and in their recovery for over 40 years. And I'm the founder of Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And today is a informal and non-scripted interview with an associate and a coach who works with Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And I wanted to introduce you to him today. And I thought I would have him share how he came to know me and how we got together. And I want to introduce you to Yitz Goldberg. And I appreciate him joining me today. Hi, Yitz.
Hey, Jerry. It's a pleasure to be here. The last time we've been on such an interview was about a year and a half ago, where I interviewed you. So
that is right.
Kind of changed our roles this time.
Yes, that is right. And that was a very enjoyable interview. I think that interview is up on my YouTube channel, too.
It is. It is.
So they can watch you and I interact there as well. And it is good to have you. I wanted to find out, how did you come to know me? How did we get together?
Well, I was searching YouTube, and suddenly one of your videos came up, and I've gone down this rabbit hole of watching your videos and understanding that the knowledge and information that you are sharing is something that's on a whole different level from what is offered out there, especially on YouTube. And I'm saying this even from a therapist's perspective. I'm a social worker, and the depth of the knowledge was incredible. So I sent you an email, and we connected, and we've been in touch, since. And it's been a very interesting ride.
And how many years has it been now?
It's been since 2017. That is 3 years.
Right. And I know you wanted to learn more about Bowen family systems and self-differentiation. Yeah. And we've been working together for that whole time, which is great. Yeah. And I have trained coaches and therapists in the past. And it's always a joy to get to do that, because I remember when I was studying these things and how much I appreciated someone helping me along that journey. And I still get help with that journey from the books that are out and any ways I can gain more information.
Yeah.
Today's video is called How to Grow a Self When Others Don't Like It. And that's what we were going to talk about today. And that's certainly a big issue for a lot of people. And I have a lot of people who write into me and say, Jerry, what do I do when, because if I do this, my whole family will reject me. Or if I do this, my mother or dad will have a conniption. If I do this, my husband will not talk to me for 2 weeks. And there's always that fear of becoming or growing a self and dealing with the backlash from others. And I know I wanted to ask about, if someone were to ask you that question, what do I do about, how do I grow a self when there's so much, or when someone is not happy with my changes? And oftentimes, if they're not happy with my changes, then I will tend to change back to the way I was before, because it takes the heat off. So how do I deal with that heat? You got any thoughts about that? And I know we were just going to talk freely and openly today, so.
Yeah. Well, I could hear in I could hear from the question the problem itself. The fact that they're worried about the backlash, right? They're afraid from the feedback, from people not liking it, is showing me the way they still have to go, right? It's showing me the journey that's still left for them, because the biggest idea of growing a self is being okay with others not liking it. If we grow a self according to what people like and what people don't like, I'm not sure how much that is an actual self. That is just continuing the old pseudo-self that we developed throughout life. And I think that when someone asks me that question, the biggest thing that comes to mind is being okay with that resistance, being okay with people not liking the change or not liking the self. And this is where the real work comes in, right? This is where the actual process is taking place. It's where you emotionally become okay with other people emotionally not being okay with your journey.
Right. And I think that's very well said, because that when others don't like it, we use the word, as you just described, we use the word resistance. Because anytime you're trying to change a homeostasis or change a status quo, the organism or the system's not going to like it, because it likes to function in a certain way, so it's going to give you resistance, as you mentioned. And I think you were very right on in terms of the question. So many times our question has the problem in it, such as, how do I grow a self when others don't like it? Or how do I be myself and deal with others' reactions? And what I was hearing you say is, you dealing with others' reactions is the problem.
Yeah.
You don't deal with others' reactions. You just let them have their reaction. Yeah. And you stay out of their reactions. You stay out of either soothing them or making them worse or making them better. You stay neutral. And so that when we do assert a self or choose or define ourselves with certain issues, topics, beliefs, and when we do that, other people will not be happy with that definition of yourself. And our job is to not mess with or deal with their reactions.
Right. That's our process of self-differentiating. And I think on the other side is to remember that they are allowed to not like it. And by you not allowing them to not like you, you are basically telling them, I don't let you be yourself. Meaning the process here is both of us are being ourselves, and we are good. We're okay with that. It might not be comfortable, but that's the reality at that moment.
And growing that tolerance for that discomfort is a part of growing up, that we tolerate that more. And I can remember, the family prayer example I gave on my videos, where I said I didn't want to give the family prayer, and then I stayed silent in front of the family so they could just be who they are, and I didn't have to fix them, change them, but it was very uncomfortable. But it was still good to do that. And I did that in 1,000 other ways in other relationships, where you declare yourself and stay quiet and not deal with, let me fix what's going on with them. And certainly you've got it right on when, hey, we got to accept them for who they are. This is who, a part of self-acceptance means other acceptance. Now, there are limitations. I don't want to get abused. I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get, that's not okay. I will be retreating from the relationship or going no contact if that's what's going to happen.
Right.
But that's not me running away. That's you pushing me away, and I don't choose to be abused. So for those who have narcissistic relationships where someone is abusive, then you don't just accept their abuse and go, oh, well, I just accept them. But we can accept other people's perspectives, ideas, emotions, and that's who they are. And we want to be ourselves and like you say, accept them more. Oh, I know you had said that when we get involved, when we start worrying about and trying to change them and their reactions to our actions, we're now still enmeshed.
Yeah.
Even if I state, I don't want to eat this turkey dinner because I don't like turkey. But if I try to convince them that they need to accept me and my not liking turkey, I'm still stuck. Even though I declared self, I'm still stuck if I'm still trying to get them to accept that I don't like turkey.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that the differentiation is not needing the acceptance of others.
Right.
Isn't that a core? Yeah. Now, many times we will get the acceptance of others. There'll be a surprise, and we may get more acceptance than we realize. But it doesn't matter either way if we're self-differentiated. It's a blessing if we get the acceptance. It's okay if we don't. That's what I think of kind of a self-differentiated move.
And there are so many ways to approach this, because asking this question shows me on so many levels the place that person is right now in their life and their ability to be a self or grow a self. And you've mentioned it, that one of the bigger things that I would focus on is raising the tolerance for other people's pain, raising meaning you being okay with other people not being comfortable, you being okay with disappointing the other person, and even expecting that disappointment coming back at you in whatever form. And the second that you allow the other person to experience that and to be with it and to deal with it, then you are free to continue doing what you wanted to do, while disappointing others. So there's a bar in our life that we are usually used to, or that we are careful with when it comes to disappointing others. And this is about kind of raising that bar 10% more, 12% more, and even
sometimes starting with 2%.
Yeah, 2%. 2% could work. 0.2 is probably could be hard enough. And it depends with context and place and person. Like, obviously, there are certain people very often are from our family of origin, parents, siblings, that it might be much harder to disappoint. It could also be certain areas of life, meaning work or dating, that you have a harder time to disappoint the other person. So it's also learning where you struggle with disappointing others. It's about identifying it, kind of exploring it, understanding when it comes up. Where exactly do you rather take a step back from being a self, and where are you still able to maintain that resistance and stay with your initial goal of growing a self?
I remember as a chaplain studying chaplaincy in my pastoral counselor work, and we had a long internship for months working in a hospital. And that was one of the most difficult things for me to learn, is to tolerate the negative feelings of others, because I was so used to trying to fix them or change them, and I just had very low tolerance for that. If somebody was really upset, I wanted them to not be upset. If someone was really grieving, I wanted them to not be grieving. I wanted them to feel better. If somebody's feeling bad, I wanted them to feel better. And had to learn through that supervision to tolerate this. No, Jerry, you're not there to take away all their pain. That's not your job. It's not? I thought that's... And then they would say, and whose pain, Jerry, are you trying to take away? Theirs or yours?
Or yours.
Stop. I don't want to hear about that. No, theirs. But actually, it was mine. They were more okay with their pain than I was. And
I feel like I could be sitting in your chair right now and have said the same exact thing.
Right. And you see clients in your social work and in your coaching, and you see people who have pain, and that's a challenge for us to do. But that's a challenge for us just to become adults to do that. That is a part of detachment. And one real indicator of whether you're detached or not is, can you allow someone to be in their own pain, to be in their own beliefs, to be in their own thoughts? That's an experience of detachment, is what that is. And for many years I didn't know what that felt like. I because I was just enmeshed everywhere and fused everywhere. So why would I want to allow you to just be in your pain without me doing anything about it? The other thing I thought of when you were speaking was the more significant the relationship, or the more important it is to me, often the more difficult it is for me to detach. Because it matters so much more. A spouse, a parent, a sibling, a best friend, whatever, child, the more, because it seems like the ante is so much higher and the risk is so much higher. And I don't want resistance from them who I am the closest to. But that's where Bowen talked about, then we go back to our family of origin, which for us growing up was everything. And we make this wager for everything. But what's interesting, if you win the wager by becoming self-differentiated and doing the work in your family of origin, let's say, then you win the lottery for other relationships as well. Less important relationships, and work relationships, spousal relationships, dating, and all those things, and friendships. So, and I thought that was an intriguing notion that Bowen was talking about. I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I found it to be true personally. Then I saw it at work in me. And I go, I'm afraid he was right. Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an opposite side of raising our tolerance for other people's pain, and that is lowering our tolerance for our own pain, meaning understanding that
now you're getting personal. Now you're getting personal, and you're gonna
this whole conversation is personal.
The whole thing is personal, isn't it?
This whole conversation is personal, out of personal experience. This is my life, and I guess this is the life of all adults, or people trying to be adults.
Trying to be adults. Right.
But the opposite of that, and it goes together, is lowering our own pain, because when we understand that when we have high tolerance for other people's pain, we are taking that on ourselves when that's not ours. We are basically making our lives harder to make someone else's life easier.
Right.
And this whole conversation is being okay with someone else having a harder life and you dealing with your own life, which is probably hard enough, I'm assuming, if you're taking on someone else's life and you're trying to avoid your own.
And you're right. I spent years avoiding my own. And that's why we get in, and people say, well, how do I seem to be always, there's drama everywhere I go. And I will tell, and I will suggest to them, because I know about having drama everywhere you go. And I will suggest to them that, or how can I stop this drama in my life? Well, I'm going to talk in a minute about Edwin Friedman's notion about right questions, right answers. I'm going to talk about asking the right questions, because that question is not such a great question. Not how can I stop the drama in my life? A better question is, what does the drama in your life serve to do to avoid you looking at what you need to look at? That's a better question. Rather than coming up with the answer to the first question, you're going to get kind of a crappy question, crappy answer. The second is a good question, and you might come up with a really helpful, good answer on the second question. Why do you need the drama? What are you avoiding? How does it keep you distracted? And so many times that's what will stay in that, that we will stay in that pattern of always trying to deal with someone else and deal with someone else's pain or problems, because that's just easier for us to do. And it keeps us entertained, and it keeps us focused off our own pain, our own shame, our own hurt, our own inadequacies, our own roles, all those things. Because then we can just focus on all this drama rather than detaching. And that is one of the downsides of detachment, is if you detach, if you truly work on detachment, guess who you're left looking at? Yike. That's, I'm not sure I want to do this self-differentiation stuff. I don't know that I want to just be left with me and looking at me. Yeah.
My mom used to say, well, she probably still says it, but she once told me, you go with yourself wherever you go. And I probably wasn't smart enough to understand it back then, but I'm definitely smart enough to understand it now, and that's true. Regardless of the distractions that I have going on in my life, at the end I'm there, and my struggles are there, and my challenges are there. And in our call yesterday, in our short call that we had yesterday, we mentioned the difference between talking about narcissism and self-differentiation. And I mentioned that for me, when I think of those two subjects, self-differentiation is about you. It's totally about you. Always the focus is me, self. And narcissism sometimes could be focused on the other person. How to deal with a narcissist, how to avoid a narcissist, how to know that person is a narcissist.
How to deal with their reactions, how to deal with their emotions.
And then I asked myself, why not just focus on you, self-differentiate from whatever is standing in front of you, and then it doesn't really matter what they are. It's all about, is this comfortable for me? Is this not? Am I interested in this or not? Is this something that's in my values or not? Or am I being reactive to that person, or am I being non-reactive to that person? And that's personally where I find a very deep connection to the journey of the process of self-differentiation, because it keeps the focus on probably one of the harder processes of life, and that is us, that is me, that is you on
No
your
matter
own
who
journey.
we dated, no matter who we've married, no matter who,
Yeah.
what there. And
Yeah.
and I think that's where, like you mentioned, when someone is working on their recovery from, say, narcissistic abuse, they make that switch from victim to recovery person when they get their focus off the narcissist. Is narcissist education unhelpful? No. It's good to know what a narcissist is. It's good to know how they function. It's good to know their symptoms. It's good to know how you have been traumatized. But we really do move into recovery when we take the focus off of them. And I think that, and we've been kind of saying that all day. I mean, in our conversation here, that's what.
Yeah.
I will be a better chaplain if I get the focus in some ways off of them and on me. Stop trying to save them and be with them. Was the whole chaplain, be alongside them and with them. Don't try to fix them. Trying to, if they have a terminal illness and they're ready, they're not far from death. Well, I can't keep that from happening. As much as I would like to, and they end up, what's interesting, so many times in our chaplaincy work that we did, the person who was not far from death was much more okay with it than we were. And that told a lot about us.
Yeah, that goes back, is that their pain or is that your pain?
Exactly. And I just wanted to be the professional who just was always above everything. And it doesn't, that's not where real help comes from. It doesn't come from that way, in that kind of a model.
Oh man, it's so much easier that way still. It doesn't work, but it's easier.
Would you, I was trying to think of would you happen to have an example that you might be able to share with the folks today of how that may have been achieved by you, or how you learned something about that in your own life or your own professional work, or whatever?
Of course.
And then maybe I can share an example too.
I have many, and I would like to start out with that. On my own journey, I've seen levels of disappointment, meaning that it started off with learning to be okay with disappointing others, and maybe even specific people. Like, I was very focused with who I'm trying to disappoint right now, and everything I did was I'm expecting their disappointment, and I'm okay with it. And I know it sounds right now as if I'm just like, oh, I'm okay with their disappointment, but in my head I was just grinding on it all day, like, oh man, I just disappointed them, what's gonna happen now? And expecting the worst, and it was me kind of being okay even with what's coming up within me when I disappoint the other person. And I think that even I even experience it now sometimes, maybe even pretty often, that the struggle is really seeing, it's disappointing myself at the end of the day. It's me not holding my own expectations. It's not someone else's, but it's mine.
We project them onto them many times.
Yep. And I've seen kind of a process happening there where it started out with me being very focused on certain people, and then maybe even growing a broader kind of approach of, okay, they think probably bad of me, or I just disappointed them, or they're struggling right now and I'm okay with it, and kind of dealing with that resistance in a much broader way. And I think the real struggle is dealing with my own resistance to all of that. And when I become aware of that, that's when I really experience kind of deeper emotions come up, emotions such as shame, maybe even anger towards myself, and for me, that's where, yeah, my own disappointment, right? My own heroism, my own need.
Heroism, right.
Yeah, my own need to always be up there, to be on that pedestal, and who am I when I'm not on that pedestal? But that's just my regular daily struggle that I'm trying to live with. But I still find myself falling or just being human, and finding myself struggling with disappointing others. And when I realize it, then it takes me some time, but then I become minded on, okay, now I'm going to disappoint this person for the next 30 days, and let's see how this works out. And understanding, and I think this is the most important part, is that they are allowed to be disappointed. I am expecting them to be disappointed.
When it's intentional, it takes on a different emotional dynamic.
Yeah.
Rather than we're always trying to avoid disappointing others, we then go, hey, it probably will disappoint them. And that's okay. As I usually say, whatever happens, if they're disappointed, it won't make my pants fall down. You know, what am I going to do? You know, I'm sometimes a disappointment. And I've even told people, well, Jerry, I was disappointed in that last session we had. Well, sometimes I'm disappointing. I'm not and then I think about self-differentiation as being that struggle along the journey to being human. It's really what self-differentiation, becoming a human being who can disappoint, do things well, do things not so well. That's what humans do. Make mistakes, do incredible things, that we're just a combination of all those things.
Yeah, and I'm going to share something now that I don't think I've even shared with you in the past, and that is that sometimes on our calls we could get drawn away to other topics, and in the beginning, I wanted to mention, meaning to bring it up and say that it bothers me or whatever in some way. But then I took it back to myself, and I was like, he's just doing Jerry. And if it bothers me, then I should be the one stopping it or bringing it up. And I even had the thought, maybe he's doing it intentionally to see where is my line. Or it doesn't really matter, because when I meet my line, when I'm ready to meet that line, then I'll meet it. And that's something that happens. I know with patients that I work with, one of the first things that I try to aim for is them being okay with disappointing me. Meaning, them being okay with showing disappointment towards me. Them being okay with telling me, hey, that wasn't cool. And I know that in their regular life, often their environment is not safe enough for them to be able to do that. And when I identify or I realize that something like that is coming up, I usually encourage, okay, bring what you got right now. And hey, you see, you just right now disappointed me in some way, and we're still here. That's an interesting relationship that you've probably never experienced before.
Right, and I'm not going to take what you say personally. I'm going to take it in a different way. I'm still going to take it, because I'm not saying what you're saying is dumb or foolish or anything. But if I take it personally, then it becomes unhelpful to the dynamic. And that's where I think one of the things I wrote down on this topic, how to grow a self when others don't like it, is one of the things, I mention is, and always focus on, is observe, don't absorb. And so when someone has something negative to tell you, or a disappointment or whatever, observe it. Don't absorb it. It's just observe it and see where the truth of it lies. And think about it and go, well, is that true? Would that be interfering with the talks that we have? I need to think about that. And I need to, rather than, oh my gosh, how could you possibly say that? You're the meanest person in the world. I mean, well, that's taking it personally. And many people will, because they don't, the reason we take things personally is because we don't have enough self. Not because we have too much self. We don't have enough. Because if you have enough self, you don't have to take it personally. And you can take it as information, that may be really useful and may be really helpful. But most times, unless someone is a malignant narcissist, then they don't care what they say to you or how they say it. Most time, people are not trying to be personal. Sometimes in dysfunctional families, and you'll find people just want to be mean. But even if somebody's being mean, I like to work towards being neutral about it. And I use the whole Coca-Cola language. Well, they're just talking in Coca-Cola, which makes no sense. Yeah. I mean, they're saying I'm a stupid, uneducated fool. Why would I even consider that as even anything other than them calling me a Coke? I mean, because there's nothing there. There's nothing to it. Now, if I take it in and get hurt and get off, well, now we got a big problem, because now I'm caught in the process and I've caught in the content of it rather than what's going on.
Well, the real struggle there is that right now you were talking about the process, and that's an emotional process, meaning a lot of times when someone absorbs that, it's emotional and it happens. Meaning in their world, someone said something and it shook their emotional system, right? And then they absorbed and internalize it. But and it's fascinating how we keep on coming back to this. The thought, or even the way of life, that what's theirs is theirs and what's mine is mine. And those words are theirs. They're allowed to say it, even if it's meaningful. Even if it's meaningful, even more than that. Even if it's abusive, they are allowed, as who they are, to say those things. But that leaves you with some harder decisions. Is this person going to stay in my life? Am I interested? Is this type of abuse something I'm willing to tolerate or not? But again, the language is what's theirs is theirs, what's mine is mine. And that's the self-differentiation part of this, right? Their disappointment is theirs. Me wanting to be self and to grow self.
Their ugly thoughts are theirs too.
My ugly thoughts are mine.
And my ugly thoughts are mine. That's right. And my ugly words are mine. Doesn't that bring us back to the tennis court?
Oh man, the tennis court. Of course. That's the best game out there. Yeah. Learning, and this is an example that you use a lot, learning to stay on our side of the tennis court is the name of the game. Meaning, enmeshed people, enmeshed couples, enmeshed families, they very easily switch sides. They sometimes even believe that they're supposed to be on the other side in order.
That's what love means, right? To be on the other side.
Yeah.
To play to play your game for you.
Yep.
Or you play my game for me.
Or me not playing my own game.
Or taking down the net. All kinds of things that families will and other relationships will do. But we want to keep that net up. We want to keep on both sides. They play their game on that side. I play my game on my side. And that helps me to, quote, deal with when others don't like it. But actually, I'm dealing with my perspective rather than dealing with them. I'm dealing with my perspective. And that's a better place to stay focused.
Yeah. I like that example because when I think of self-differentiation and this whole subject, I see that the tennis game is a good example of how self-differentiation is supposed to look like. You stay on your side, the other person stays on the other side, and yet you're engaging, right? The ball is passing
We're still playing.
But if you go right now to a tennis court and you both stand on the same side, you might think that you're playing a game, and you might even be playing some game, but you're not playing the tennis game.
Right.
And if you think of self-differentiation as a tennis game, then it has some really cool connections in how the rules of tennis work, and understanding that if you as a player, as a tennis player, right now pass to the other player's side, you're playing a different game. You're definitely not playing the tennis game or the self-differentiation game.
Right. And you become disqualified. You can't go up and touch the net in tennis. I don't believe you can touch the net. That if you touch the net, you're violating the rules of tennis. As I recall, I used to play tennis. It's been quite a while since I've done that. Now, what if I'm on my side of the tennis net, the other person's on their side of the tennis net, and they hit the ball intentionally to hit me and hurt me? What do I do?
What do you mean? You let it hurt you? No, that's not how it works.
Well,
no, I said that I was cynical.
Tongue in cheek.
Well, it really depends how from what perspective you're coming from, right? What most people would do is respond, right? They would hit the ball back, maybe even harder to hit the other person back harder.
The other person, right.
But then you're just being reactive. Another option is to stay where you're at and let the ball hit the wall behind you with zero effect on you. And I think you could also hit the ball back, but with no intention to hurt the other person. Meaning, okay, I heard you, but take the ball. Like, cool, like I've no effect on me.
Now, and I know we have a somewhat limited analogy, but if the person keeps hitting the ball only with the intention of hurting me with it, then what choice? Then I have a choice that this is not the player or the game I wish to do. And they will need to find somebody else to do this with. But you're right. And sometimes and this is where I think a lot of people struggle, and I can understand that struggle. When do I need more self-differentiation, and when do I need to go no contact or call it a day and let broke be broke? And I think that's where they can come to us and get help from a coach, yourself or myself, to help them sort out when do they need more self-differentiation, and when is it time to make a major move and walk off the court. Because either way, you want to become more neutral and more detached. Either way. But then in deciding, is this relationship over or not, it's good to get some objective help with identifying that. Because I have some people who have cut off from people who are not being abusive because of their own internal reactivity. But they cut off from them, and what they needed was greater self-differentiation, not cut off and not no contact. Then I have other people who keep trying to be self when they're being abused.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, that's probably not, that's not going to work well, because the other person in your party is not trying to do anything but be mean and abusive. Maybe you should call it a day rather than trying more self-differentiation with them. And again, that's a poor analogy, because we want to self-differentiate no matter what's happening. Excuse me. But I know that people have been helped by that notion of, when do I need more self-differentiation, and when do I let broke be broke?
Right. So while you were talking, there were three things that came to mind. The first is that, and this, I'm bringing the lens back to me, or back to the person who's watching this video. Very often, you are the one hitting the bat hard enough to hurt the other person, and they are reacting to you. Meaning sometimes it's not the other person starting it, but that's just your connection with the other person. The second thing,
you don't realize how hard you're hitting.
You are hitting, right?
You are hitting,
and you're focusing on the other person. Well, the focus is on you, right?
Exactly.
What, maybe you were the first one that hit it hard, and they're just responding to the same level of
focusing
intensity
on their hit, not yours.
Right. The second thing is that when the other person hits the tennis net to hurt you, and suddenly they stop, very often we will find that game being a boring game. Meaning that when we try to exit, right, to take kind of steps back from that intensity or from that enmeshment in the tennis court, and I'm talking about self-differentiation, not obviously tennis, right?
Right.
Then very often that game is going to become boring, meaning, hey, I'm used to this crazy intensity where things are going back and forth, and suddenly when I stop, wait, this new player that came in, or this person that I knew that stopped being so intense, I don't know how to relate to this level of intensity. And I do think that that's something to remember, that we are very often addicted to that type of intensity. We are addicted to be on their side of the tennis net, and we very often don't know how to be on our side. We even to the extent that when we are and on our side, we will feel this very strong feeling that we want to go back, that this side is not enough, that this side might even be boring, or something's missing.
And because we're addicted to the drama, to the technicolor life, because also family of origin and what we've grown up in and things like that. I was going to do a video on Melanie Tanya Evans does some work on, and she's got 9 traits. I think I was going to do 15 of what are the traits that set you up for like narcissistic abuse. And some of that is what you were just talking about. That we're just used to, we're always on their side of the court. We grew up being on their side of the court. We grew up doing all kinds of ways we playing the game in a certain way. And then we wonder why we get the narcissist in our life.
Right. And I think that's the deeper work, right? That's the work that I think it's very hard to do by yourself. It's very hard to maintain that space, right? Also, when you might have some realization, I think an objective kind of person, or someone who's helping you on this journey could help you stay in that process, help you understand your emotional process more, the emotional areas in your life that you're addicted to and the emotional processes that are healthy for you, but that you find boring and non-interesting. I think that's where really coaching help or therapist help really comes into mind. And I wanted to finish off the third theme that I mentioned.
You had a third point, right? You had a third point.
You were saying how people don't know when to cut off, people don't know when to stay, and to be honest, I don't know either. I especially don't know for other people. But one of the harder truths of being a mature adult is understanding that any decision is your decision and any decision is okay, meaning you decide to stay. Okay, that's you need to take responsibility over that decision as a mature adult that's responsible for your own life. And if you decide to take a step back, then that's your decision as well. And I think that's again where people have a hard time understanding what's theirs and what's others, because it's much easier to try to change the other person or to try to get answers from people who are outside of ourselves
and don't have to live with the consequences and may not even know all the facts.
Yep. And I don't know other people's answers. I could say that right now, anyone who's even considering working with me, I don't know your answers. I may sometimes speak with confidence, but I don't know your answers. That's for sure.
But I think through the work of self-differentiation, we can help you to find your answers. Right. And I think there's a way to do that. I wanted to ask you, Yitz, how could someone work with you? What would they need to do? Where would they need to go?
Well, they could, from whatever I understood, they go on your website, right? They could contact you.
Jerry Wise Relationshipsystems.com.
Yeah. You could email me. I rather through the website, but you could email me personally as well. My email is yitz.go@gmail.com. You could reach out yitz.go@gmail.com. Yeah. And you could follow me on Instagram, where I just share a lot of sunsets and a lot of sunsets and hiking. And yesterday I shared some beautiful Ferrari.
You did. I did see that.
Yeah.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah.
You're going to buy me one soon, I thought, is what you were.
Yeah, it's coming, Jerry. Wasn't it your birthday yesterday? It's on the way.
It was. I should have gotten a Ferrari.
Yeah, it's on the way. Don't worry.
Yeah, great. It just I'll sit out here on the porch waiting on it.
Yeah. So you could reach out on Instagram, which is YitzGo, YitzGo @YitzGo. Yeah, that's the way to reach me.
And I hope everyone will join the YouTube channel. You can click the button to subscribe. You can click the join button on your browser. You can't do it on your phone. The phone YouTube doesn't work that way. Go to YouTube on your browser, PC app, or iPad or something. Then you can join this membership on this channel and get all of the exclusive videos that are on there now. Very low cost. I hope you will do that. And
Jerry, could I give a little spoiler?
Go right ahead.
Well, this is a little spoiler that I'm planning to take over Jerry's live, I don't know, YouTube, Facebook, and everything, and do maybe a Q&A where it's just me and you guys could ask me questions about specific subjects or any questions that you have. And to be honest, I'm excited for that because I love lives and I love.
He likes Q&A. Doing that, and I hope you will get him good questions and think about questions you might have for Yitz. I'll still be doing live also, but I'd like Yitz to join me in live on YouTube and Facebook. In fact, I think I have a live, though this video is going to be up for a while, but in just a few days I'm going to have a live, or I'm going to go live on YouTube and Facebook. And I'm going to send that out to all the people who have signed up on the website. So please join and subscribe. And I certainly enjoy talking about these things today. I hope they've been a help to you. Yitz, is there any last words you have for today that you'd like to share?
Well, I enjoyed the conversation as always. Sometimes I wish that all of our conversations were recorded, and then we could just like upload them without it actually being an actual interview. But I enjoyed this as well, and I think this is how I feel towards this interview, is that we just touched kind of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this topic. Like we've touched some specific ideas, but at the end of the day, the change that is required for someone to apply this is an emotional change. It's much deeper. It takes time. It takes even the ability. It takes mature emotional thinking. It takes time. It takes time. Like, meaning, not everyone will be open for such a process right now. And if you are, then you are in a good place. Meaning, if you are in a place to take this to the next level and to kind of go deeper, then you're in a good spot.
And reach out to Yitzs or Nancy or myself here at Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. I think it also takes courage, certainly, as well as effort and time. Obviously, for me, it has been the best choice to do that of any other approach or any other way I've tried to grow. It seems to have brought the most happiness and relief and sense of self that I did not have for many, many years. And so I'm grateful that I got to learn from some other people and they shared these things with me.
Yeah. Well, I relate to that as well.
Well, I want to thank Yitz for joining me today, and I thank all of you for patiently hearing us have a conversation together.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will have more conversations about different topics that might be of interest to you. Today is called How to Grow a Self When Others Don't Like It.
Yep.
And I hope you guys have a great day, and be wise.
Bye-bye, everyone.